Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, I want to talk about this book, Alien: The Cold Forge by Alex White, and ask the question, does a book have to be original to be great? Okay, so cards on the table right from the start. Yes, I do think this is a great book. I had a fantastic time with it. I can't remember the last time I've been so gripped by a novel and so invested in the outcome for the characters. I really thought this was a fantastically written and enjoyable and exciting and tense and deep and thoughtful novel. And that, that may be a surprise because this is, after all, a movie tie-in novel. So it's not a novelisation of one of the Alien movies, but it is a book that uses that pre-existing Alien universe to tell a new story. And I think we tend to look down on books like this a bit. We tend in literature to prize originality and to scorn books that are derivative. And in fact, that word derivative is often a word that's used in negative reviews, isn't it? If we say a book is derivative, we mean it hasn't got anything new to show us, to tell us. It doesn't add anything particularly to its genre. But this is a book that I think did have new things to tell me, that did add something to its genre, and that was fantastically enjoyable as a result of that, despite the fact that the universe it's set in is one that's borrowed from the movies. So let me tell you a bit about the plot of the book and then get into why I thought it was so good. So this is a novel set on a remote kind of space station that's owned by Weyland-Yutani, the evil corporation from the Alien movies. And they're doing like weapons research on that space station. Naturally, that means they're experimenting on xenomorphs and trying to turn them into living weapons. And it focuses on two characters in particular. So Blue, who is a scientist on that station who's doing some of this research, and Dorian, who's like an auditor who's sent to the space station to try and save money, basically, to try and improve their processes and things like that. So it's a very kind of corporate setup right from the start. It's not kind of Space Marines and things like that, like the Aliens movie, or a kind of remote prison world or something like that, like Alien 3. It's much more of a corporate setting. But it still manages to be fantastically gripping and exciting. What it does well is three things, I think. Firstly, the character development in this book is phenomenal. So the characters are really, really interesting anyway. But what Alex White manages to do is develop and change and alter them through the course of the book. So it's only by the end of the book that you really, really understand them as people, that you really understand their motivations. And even Dorian, who is one of the most fantastically nasty characters I've had the pleasure to read in the last few years, even Dorian you end up with a little bit of sympathy for. So Dorian is a fantastic villain. He's truly detestable. You really, he really got my goat. And in fact, by the end of the book, it becomes, it's almost as much about wanting Dorian to get his comeuppance as it is about wanting the characters who are more sympathetic to survive. And yet, even then, Dorian, you do feel a bit of sympathy for. You kind of get, by the end of the book, why he's doing the things that he does. So character development is excellent. The pacing is really, really good as well. So it starts, it's quite a slow burn at the start. Things gradually build up over time until by the end it's quite almost chaotic in terms of the amount of stuff that's going on and the amount of peril that there is for the characters that you care about. So the pacing I thought was excellent as well as the characters, and the themes are very well developed too. So there are some really interesting themes in this book. There's a lot about kind of body dysmorphia and things like that. So Blue, like the central character, is disabled, but uses a synthetic. So one of the android type characters, like Ash or Bishop in the movies, uses the synthetic as like an avatar to move around and do things. So there's some really interesting stuff about dysmorphia and how our bodies impact the way we feel and things like that, if that makes sense. So as I said, Blue is disabled, she's a woman, but when she's inhabiting, and she's black as well, but she inhabits for large portions of the book like an able-bodied white male synthetic form. So there's some really interesting stuff at play there, and I thought Alex White did a really good job of exploring that. There's also some really interesting stuff about AI. So that the synthetic that she inhabits, has its own consciousness as well. So some really interesting stuff about that. And there's also tons of stuff about kind of corporate politics and things like that, which are very, very well handled. So some really interesting themes in the book. And it occurred to me reading it that one of the reasons Alex White is able to put as much energy as he is into those things is because he's using a pre-existing universe. So he doesn't have to worry about world building and things like that, which, as I've said in videos I've made before, is one of the things I often find a turn off in sci-fi and fantasy, is the fact that authors need to spend loads of time explaining how the universe works and that kind of thing. You don't have to do that when you're writing a book set in a universe that everyone knows already. So I need, I know everything I need to about the alien universe and, the xenomorphs and Weyland Yutani and so on from the movies. So Alex White doesn't need to spend pages and pages telling me about them again. What he does do is develop, more ideas and things like that around those, those settings, those companies, those characters. But he doesn't need to waste loads of pages that kind of bog down the story explaining those things. And what that means is Alex White can focus on the things that I think are really important in a novel: pacing, character and themes, and he does a fantastic job with them. This is, I think, definitely one of my favourite books I've read so far this year, which really did surprise me. I was expecting to have fun with it, but I wasn't expecting to be blown away by it. I really do think this is an excellent sci-fi horror novel. If you're a fan of the alien universe, you should definitely read it. But even if you're not, I think you'd find a lot to enjoy here. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read Alien the Cold Forge and what you thought of it. Let me know if you've read other Alien Time books and if there are any other ones you think I should check out, or indeed Time books for other franchises. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. I hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.